Good morning, everyone. We'll get started with today's class.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys. So before I start off with the class, I just want to talk to you about the project for this course. As I mentioned in the first class, this course has a large internal assessment component, which is 40% of your grade comes from your internal assessment. So which we call as the design project. Now, you have been submitting some of these design assignments, right? I think you have done a NMOS, PMOS characterization. You've also done, common source design. You've done a current mirror design. Now, all these things will be added up to your, in that 40% marks. But I'll be giving you one more op-amp design exercise, which you need to be doing. So probably the deadline for that submission will be a little later. When is your quiz 2 getting over? MTech students, when is your quiz 2 getting over?
Ninth November.
9th November. Okay. What about you guys? BTech guys?
18th November.
18th November.
18th. Okay. 18th is a Saturday. So, okay, fine. All right. So I think no, 18th is not a Saturday. It's a Thursday. All right. Okay. So this OTA design will be a simple 5 transistor OTA. I'll give you that design exercise. Probably you can just do it in the meantime, in the next coming weeks, but probably I'll just give you a little bit more time to do that. The final semester exams, according to the timetable, are beginning from around, I think, 15th or 16th of December. And no, I think it's 8th of December, right? And 6th December, I believe, is the last working day or the last day of instruction. So what we will do is we will have the project evaluation by the first week of December, all right? So which means you've got like about a month to work on your project. And I'm just putting together some project topics. I think the strength of this course is around 50. So now I can see only 30 students who have joined in the class right now. But I believe the total strength is around, 48, 49, something like that, right? Anyway, so you can form groups among yourselves. Like the group sizes can be anywhere between 3 to 5. Okay. I will circulate a spreadsheet where you guys can, add your roll numbers, your names, and which group. So first come, first serve. So you can just go and edit the group name. So the group size can be anywhere between 3 and 5. And the groups need not be only BTech or only MTech. You can have, combined groups as well. Like that is to say that the group can comprise of both BTech and MTech students. So I completely leave it to your choice. Now, just because it's a group effort, it doesn't mean that, one guy does all the work and everybody else just sits around. So now that LT Spice is available with all of you can, work on your assignments. So you can kind of break up the problem into multiple, units so that each of you has a contribution. Okay. But if you think it cannot be broken up into so many fragments, at least you can, break it up. I mean, you can do 2 versions of design. That is also fine. But I want contribution from every single person. And the BTech students already know about the way I conduct these vivas. So the project presentations will be in the first week of December, where you will be, where each of you have to tell what you have contributed, explain the design, and you should know how you have designed. It's not about just sweeping, X, Y, Z parameters. Just sweep till you get some kind of a result. So that is not the way it should be. And therefore, so please take the project seriously because it's going to have the bulk of your marks. And so I'm just putting together the project and I will put it up by probably today. Okay, 29th, today is 29th. I'll put it up on Moodle page today. I'll also put it up in the Teams page. You can pick any project out of that. And so some of the projects are in a 65 nanometer technology node. Some of them are in 180 nanometer technology node. Some of them can be in both. So pick whichever one you like. Okay. And if you would like to have any discussions with me on that, you can do that. And what I will do is to make sure that things are streamlined and picked up. I'll circulate the spreadsheet. So form your groups, enter your names, choose your topic, and put the topic over there. Okay, and that needs to be done probably by let's say Wednesday. That is 3rd of November. You have around 5 days to deliberate about who's going to be your teammates and what project you're choosing, and you can go ahead from there. Okay, all right. So now let's get started with our class. So till last class, in last class rather, we were looking at what is called as a telescopic cascode OTAs, right? Today we are going to look at another class or another topology of OTAs, which is called as the folded cascode OTA. Let me share my screen. Right. So we are going to look at what is called as a folded cascode OTA. Now, one of the major problems of telescopic cascodes is what? What is the major problem with telescopic cascodes? Anyone?
Voltage swing is limited.
Voltage swing is limited, right? Both the input common mode range is limited and the output voltage swing is very limited, right? So we need to find out a way by which you can still get a high gain, but at the same time, make sure that you have a fairly good voltage swing at the output as well as a very good input common mode range. Because typically when you use your op amps, right? So let's say your input common mode range can go from almost close to 0 to almost close to VDD, right? So for example, that is like you can have 0.3 plus delta V and 0.3 minus delta V, or you can also have 0.9 minus delta V and 0.9 plus delta V, something like that. The input common mode voltage should range over a large span. So this problem is alleviated by what is called as folded cascode OTA. Okay. Now, before we go into a differential circuit, let us first look at a single-ended circuit. Okay. Now, what is a cascode? Let's say this is your current mirror load. This is your input transistor. Let's call it M1. M2 is your cascoding transistor, right? M2 is the cascode, M1 is your input transistor. Now the problem is because you are stacking up both on top of each other, that is what is resulting in all these problems, right? Now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to decouple these two transistors. Okay. Now how am I going to decouple these two transistors? I'm going to say, okay, I want the cascode transistor M2, but then that VB for the transistor M2, or rather this M2 by itself, is going to limit the range of Vin that I can give. And so in order to kind of split it out, I'm going to take this transistor and fold it out. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to retain the cascode. Let me say this is M2. This is the V out. I'm going to retain this as such, but I'm going to take the input transistor and fold it. Fold it, by folding, I mean I'm going to make it into a PMOS transistor. Okay. Now, this is a supply voltage. I'm going to just turn it around and use it as a PMOS transistor, and this is going to be my input voltage. Okay. And here what is happening? The input is given to the gate, the source is AC grounded, and the drain is connected to the source of my M2. Correct. So I'm going to do the same thing. Here the source is AC grounded. Basically, it is connected to the supply voltage. Input is given to the gate. and the drain is going to get connected to the source of my M2. Okay. Now what have I done? Basically the current is getting folded here, right? The small signal current kind of has to get folded around like this. And of course, now the DC current has to flow somewhere, right? It cannot flow from VDD to VDD. So both the transistors will be conducting some DC current, right? The M1 is biased with a certain DC current. M2 is biased with a certain DC current. The DC current here, let's call it as I1, right? So I have to provide a DC current path. So I put another current source, let's call it I2. Now, obviously, I2 has to current, I2 is equal to I1 plus ID1. Correct. This is what is called as a folded cascode circuit or a folded cascode amplifier. Okay. You take a normal cascode or a normal telescopic cascode. You have two NMOS transistors or two PMOS transistors. You retain the cascode transistor and you change the input transistor to the opposite polarity. Okay. So suppose similarly, I am going to have a PMOS based telescopic cascode. Let's say this is my Vin. This is going to be, let's say this is M1, this is M2. Let's say I'm giving this to some VB. I'm going to have a current source. This is my Vout. So this is again a telescopic cascode amplifier, a single-ended telescopic cascode amplifier with a PMOS input transistor. Now, how will I work with this? I will basically have the same cascoding transistor. Let's say this is the same VB, and I need a current source. Let me call it as I1, and I'm taking my output at the drain of my cascoding transistor, right? Now, what I need to do is, because now initially I'm having a PMOS transistor, I flip it around and I'm going to use an NMOS transistor as my input, right? Vin, this is my M1, this is my M2. Now my this thing is connected to a AC ground, in this case the actual ground, right? The drain is supposed to be connected to the source of M2, drain of M1 connected to source of M2. And of course, in order to bias it, I'm having a current source I2. Okay. So this is the PMOS version of folded cascode amplifier. All right. Now I'll explain the concept using single-ended amplifiers, or basically normal amplifiers. Now we are going to apply the same concept to a differential amplifier. Okay. Any doubts so far? Any questions? Okay. All right. So basically, if you want to look at the small signal behavior, let us take this as an example. Let's say there is a VCM plus delta V. Now that plus delta V will take an extra current of GM plus GM delta V. Now, of course, I2 is a constant current source, and therefore this plus GM delta V has to come in this direction, right? And that is going to be pulled through basically VB. Now output, you'll have a capacitor. So basically the output is going to, the small signal current is going to flow like this. All right. Similarly, you can talk about this one. Right? Okay. Now let us look at the differential version. Okay. So we already have studied the cascode version. The folded cascode transistor, right? So what we are going to do is, now we are going to start with the let us just start with the cascode transistor, and then let's start with the telescopic cascode and let us convert it into a folded cascode op-amp. Okay. Now let's just use current sources so that we understand these things better. So what is for a telescopic cascode? You have PMOS current sources, and then you have your cascoding. Let's have it like this, VB, and then you have your input transistor. Let's say this is Vin plus, Vin minus, and then you have your tail current source I tail, right? Okay. Now what we are going to do is basically let us make it a folded cascade, right? What is a folded cascade? You keep the cascading transistor as such and you flip around your input transistor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of first let me put my PMOS transistors. Okay. Let them be V in P and V in M, right? And because I put them here, I'm going to remove the telescopic cascade, the input pair, right? So now this is what I'm left with. Now somehow, now everything is kind of hanging around in thin air. So before we look at the current source, obviously what has to happen, let us say the V in P now has to connect to this side, to this one, right? So we just flipped it around and we connected to the appropriate terminals. Now, first of all, these two sources, I mean the if you look at the the PMOS version, so here basically now your differential pair has come here. So your I-tail also has to come here, because if you don't have an I-tail, so suppose I put like this, what will happen? Suppose I don't put an I-tail, I just directly connect it to VDD. What is likely to happen?
So there is no path for DC.
No, DC path is there. No, this is VDD. So DC will flow. I'll give you a clue. Think in terms of common mode gain and CMRR.
Sir, the ITEL by two currents from both the paths will float from VDD to the same VDD.
Okay, so before I ask that question, let me say, of course, you're right. I mean, current needs to flow. It cannot flow like this. So I'm going to put two current sources here. Let's call this as I1 and let's call this as I2. Okay. So DC current flows like this. So there is a path for DC current. Okay. Now what I'm saying is this circuit kind of looks very similar to what we did here. Take the source connected to VDD, right? I1 and I2 are satisfied. But can I do this? If I do this, what will happen to my CMRR? Just think in terms of the common mode performance of the differential pair.
So CMRR will decrease.
Decrease to what?
Sir, maybe something to do with the R-tail thing.
There is no R-tail here, basically, right?
Yes, sir.
So if you have no R-tail, your common mode gain, I mean, it is going to directly, impact your performance, right? So for example, this is like saying, I'm going to take a differential pair and just ground these two things, right? So which means there is no, as your VCM increases, your the drain current will increase through both the transistors, right? And that will change your GM point, that can push things out of saturation, and everything changes with your common mode aspect, right? So common mode gain will be equal to your differential mode gain, and therefore your CMRR becomes 1, or rather 0 dB. There is basically no common mode rejection at all, right? So that's a very bad thing. We need common mode rejection to happen. So therefore the tail current source has to come here. All right. So that as your common mode voltage keeps changing, this transistor will take only the VSG that it requires. Okay. The rest of the stuff, it will drop across the current source. Correct. So if this is V tail, so VDD minus V tail minus VSG will be equal to your VCM. This is at DC. All right. So as your VCM increases, VDD is fixed, VSG is fixed. your V tail alone will increase. Okay, or rather, yeah, decrease. Okay, because there is a negative sign here. All right. So this is very important. Otherwise, your common mode bias point will keep changing the behavior of your transistor. Okay. All right. So this is whatever we have drawn here. This is what is called as a folded cascode. Okay. So you have, this is your actual cascode, the top part, and then you have your folded part coming and joining here, the I2 current sources over here. Now, obviously, I2 is now going to be what? What is the value of I2? Can you tell me?
2 I1, sorry, I1 plus I tail by 2.
I1 plus I tail divided by 2. Right? So the bottom current source is going to conduct the currents of both I1 and I tail by 2. Okay. All right. So this is how it looks at DC. Now let us go and substitute all these things with the actual transistors. Okay.
Sir,
Now, yeah.
sir, do we still need this I2 current sources?
Yeah, if you remove I2 current source, let me tell you what happens. Where is the current going to flow? DC current.
Okay, sir.
Right. All right. Okay. So now
Sir,
let us.
can we combine this 2 I2?
Sorry, come again.
Can we combine these 2 I2s?
If you okay, so you're saying like, why can't you put one thing like this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now what will happen?
Okay, it will short circuit.
Yeah, it will basically short your differential terminals. So you have, current source, and this is your PMOS differential pair. If you short the two, then what will happen is the differential current will only circulate like this, right? So this will produce, let's say there is a plus delta V here and minus delta V here. So because this is PMOS, it will work the other way around, correct? So plus delta V means the current flowing here is minus GM delta V, and this is minus delta V means it will be plus GM delta V, right? So this node is shorted. So basically the current will literally circulate within itself. And this node will also become a common mode node. In fact, sometimes we use a topology like, a circuit like this, so that this actually we will be seeing it in one of the subsequent classes, that this drain node, let's call it as D, it will react only to common mode signals. It will not react to differential mode signals, because the differential mode signal will literally, the current will only circulate within itself. And if you put, let's say, some resistor or something, this node will react only to common mode signals. Okay. So there are certain cases where we want to estimate the common mode point. At that point of time, we will do things like this. Okay. So which is why we cannot short the two. All right. So let us implement this. Okay. So let us say how to implement this. First of all, this part is very straightforward, right? You have, let's call this as M0. This is our V tail, correct? You have your input pair. Let's say this is M1, M2. This is V in plus, V in minus, right? And then we have two current sources of I1 here. So how do we build the current sources? Current sources are easy to be, everything is done using transistors, right? So this is your current source. But now, since we are talking about cascodes, right? And you're taking your output here, right? Or rather, I should kind of put it like this. Your output is taken here, right? So you need to use a cascode current source here. All right. Let's say this is some VB. Let's put the numbers little later. And then again, you have your actual cascoding transistor. Let's say this is connected to VB. Let's call it VB1. This is VB2, VB3. All right. And then you need to have your current source here. So we will put one more current source, right? Let's call it as VB4 grounded. All right. And your output is taken between these two terminals. Now, how do we connect them? We connect, let's say this is connected here and this is connected here. All right. So let us put some numbers. Let us say this is M3, M4, M5, M6, M7, M8, M9, and M10. So totally you have 11 transistors in this OTA. Now let us try to understand how this is working. Right. So at DC, so first let's do a DC analysis. So let us say I1 is flowing here. I1 is flowing here. So VB2 and VB3 are designed in such a way that I1 is flowing. We know how to bias cascode current mirrors. We have already done them, right? So this top part is simple, done. Now this is I-tail. How to bias I4? How to bias VB4 for M3 and M4? That is also straightforward. We know, the amount of current that is going to flow. So here, what is flowing is basically I2. This is also I2, and this is I-tail by 2. This is also I-tail by 2. This is I-tail. Right? So I2 is now going to be I1 plus I-tail by 2. So you use another current mirror or to bias this NMOS transistor such that it is able to conduct this current of I2. All right, done. Now this is our DC. So let us say there is a AC signal now coming in. Okay. Now how is this op amp really going to work? So let us say we have a VCM plus delta V here, and we have a VCM minus delta V here. Okay. Now this is a PMOS transistor. So if there is a plus delta V coming to the gate of the PMOS, the gate to source voltage is reducing by that same amount, because let's say this node is, let's call it as P, that is the common mode node, right? So plus delta V means your current is now going to reduce, and therefore the current that is going to flow in here is minus GM delta V. Correct. Now the same way, the current that is going to flow here is plus GM delta V. So now let us do the same thing that we did. Maybe let us put one big capacitor to to ground. Okay, and we are interested in finding out what is the current that is going to flow through it. Now already we know that I1 is flowing through M7, M8, M9, M10. All the 4 transistors are conducting I1 constant, right? And what is the DC current through this one? The DC current is supposed to be I1. M5 and M6, it is supposed to conduct I1, right? And I2 is, of course, the whatever we have written here. Now what has happened is that you are now pumping in GM minus GM delta V and plus GM delta V here, right? So here you are having plus GM delta V, and here you are having minus GM delta V, correct? In this case, what is happening is I2 is properly biased. That is to say, I2 is going to define the current at the bottom. Okay, so M3 and M4 are going to act as proper current sources here, right? So what is going to happen is that this current through M3 is going to remain constant at I2, right? And therefore your IM5 is not going to be, let's call it IM5 and IM6. So what is IM5? Because IM5, so the reason why we say that the current changes through M5, M6 rather than M3, M4 is 2 reasons. Okay. I mean, we can look at it in 2 different ways. One is you can look at the impedances. Okay. When the small signal current reaches this point, let us call this point as A and this point as B, right? When the small signal current reaches the point A and point B, it looks up and sees 1 over GM5 or 1 over GM6, and it looks down and sees R03 or R04. So obviously 1 over GM5 is much smaller than R03. So the small signal current will basically go up. Okay, that is one way to understand it. Another way to understand it at a more device kind of a level is to say that the gate to source voltage of M3 and M4 is fixed. Why is it fixed? Because VB4 is fixed. It is coming from a current mirror, and that current mirror is not experiencing any small signal voltage or current in it, right? And the other terminal, the source terminal, is grounded. So the VGS of this VGS is basically fixed. So if you fix your VGS, your current gets fixed, right? And therefore current through M3 and M4 will be I2. All right. Whereas if you look at M5 and M6, only your gate voltage is fixed, which is VB1, right? But your source voltage can move around, right? That is not really set in stone. Source voltage is kind of free to move around a little bit. So that is going to absorb your remaining current. This is two ways of looking at the same phenomenon. Understood? So now I2 is fixed, the top I1 is fixed. So IM5 can be written as what? So let's say IM5 is the incoming current. So IM5, if you do KCL at the node A, you get IM5 plus IM5 minus GM delta V. These two are the incoming currents, and the outgoing current is basically I2. Right? So which basically means that IM5 is equal to I2 plus GM delta V. Right? Similarly, what do you get? IM6 plus GM delta V is equal to I2. Right? So therefore, IM6, the transistor through M6, sorry, the current through transistor M6 is I2 minus GM delta V. All right. Now, having known IM5 and IM6, let us calculate IOUT. Okay, let's say this is IOUT1 and this is IOUT2. Okay, what is IOUT2? Can you tell me? So IOUT1 is the outgoing current, and this plus IM5 is equal to I1, which is the incoming current. Right? Now, what happens to IOUT1? IOUT1 can be written as I1 minus IM5. What is IM5? It is I2 minus GM delta V. Correct. Now, what is I1 minus I2? Okay, so basically, let us say you, yeah. So you're going to have. Okay,
Sir?
sorry, I didn't include the I tail by 2 current here. Okay. So where will the I tail by 2 current come? So this will become plus I tail by 2. Okay, why don't I just write it in the next thing? So IM5 is going to be equal. So IM5 is one incoming current. The other incoming current is I tail divided by 2 minus GM delta V. Okay, is equal to the outgoing current, which is I2. Right. So IM5 can be written as I2 minus I tail by 2 plus GM delta V. Similarly, IM6 plus I tail by 2 plus GM delta V is equal to I2. So therefore, IM6 is nothing but I2 minus I tail by 2 plus, minus GM delta V. Correct. So now coming to this particular point, so let me just erase this whole thing so that confusion is not there. Right. So here this is basically I tail by 2 plus this one. This is I tail by 2 minus this one. Okay, all right. Now this equation is basically correct. So you have IOUT1 plus IM5 is equal to I1. IOUT1 plus IM5 both are, oops, the IOUT1 going out and IM5 going out is equal to I1, which is coming in, right? KCL at the output node. So IOUT1 is what? I1 minus IM5, which is basically I2 plus I tail by 2 minus GM delta V. Now, of course, this whole thing will cancel out. So the I out 1 is nothing but minus GM delta V. Similarly, you will have I out 2 being equal to plus GM delta V. All right. So the effective, so obviously this becomes the plus terminal and this becomes the minus terminal of our op amp. All right. Now, here what do we see here? What is the effective transconductance? Let's call it GM. What is the net differential current? It is going to be 2 times GM delta V divided by 2 times delta V, which is GM, is of 1, 2. So you can see that the effective transconductance remains the same for all the topologies that we have been seeing so far. Correct? Which is nothing but the transconductance of transistor M1 and M2. All right. Now let us look at the, so is there any question, any doubt? Is it clear?
Sir?
Yeah.
So you mentioned like the VGS value for M5 will change because of the input current, right, sir?
Correct. Yes.
Sir, but I couldn't get it. Why will it change? Because only we are getting is input in current, not voltage.
Yeah, input current, but then how will it support the extra volt current?
So, but
So
how
there are
will
two
it
ways
change?
it can. So there are two ways by which it can support. One is it has to change the VGS, or it has to depend on VDS. So basically, in practice, what will happen is, so here what we say is, although we say all the current goes to M5, in practice that R03 will also take a small amount of current, but we just say approximately this is what is happening, right? This is having some degree of approximation. Okay. The extra current. So if you think that the R naughts are quite large, okay, assume that R naughts are quite large, then what will happen to support an increasing current? The VGS will automatically increase.
Okay, sir. So we can say that VDS for M3 will also change a bit.
Yes. So in practice, what will happen is as this node voltage slightly goes, so we are talking about incremental voltage. We are talking about small signal voltages, right? We're not talking about large changes, right? So let us say VA slightly goes down. Okay, that means VDS of M3 slightly decreases, but because R0 is pretty large, it does not change the current I2. Okay, same way for M3, the VDS slightly increases, but again, if you assume R0 to be much larger than, the GM of the 1 over GM of the transistor. So basically the current changes only due to the VGSs, but in practice, all these effects are there. So it is very difficult to sit and, exactly write accurate expressions which is why we depend on simulators. But you understood the point, right? We are talking about some very minuscule changes, incremental changes, small signal perturbations. Very difficult to sit and exactly write accurate expressions which is why we depend on simulators. But you understood the point, right? We are talking about some very minuscule changes, incremental changes, small signal perturbations.
And sir, like looking upward from point 8, will it be input resistance? Would it be 1 by GM5 parallel?
Yeah.
M3, R0 7, R0 9.
No, not parallel to those things. Okay. In this case, for this particular case, we have put a capacitive load. So this will become an AC ground. But if that is not there in the actual, because in order to find out the effective transconductance, you put an AC short at the output node. So basically those things will not come into the picture. If you want to know exactly what is the thing is, if you say this is going to be R01, right? So it will be R01 plus R01 divided by GM1 plus GM, something like that. We saw the expression for common gate, right? So essentially it is a common gate with, let's say this is some RD, this is a transistor, this is your VN. Okay. So approximately it is 1 over GM. but it turns out to be 1 over, I mean, we have seen that, right? I think it becomes 1 RD plus R naught divided by, I think it is 1 plus GM R naught, something like that. Okay. So
Yes,
if
sir,
I
got it,
remember
sir.
right, yeah, 1 plus GM R naught, something like this will be the expression. So if R naught is fairly larger, like you can basically approximate it to be 1 over GM. I'm not exactly sure of this expression. I just need to check it up once. Right. Okay.
Yes, sir, got it.
All right. Okay, so we found our effective transconductance, right? And we also, let us now find out what is our output impedance. So because if we find our output impedance and our effective transconductance, now we'll be able to find out the gain, and then we'll be able to look at our bandwidth and other specs, right? So what is the output impedance? So let us look at this particular circuits. I don't want to draw again and again, it takes a lot of time. So this is our output, right? Plus and minus, we have already decided this is our output. If you look up what is the output impedance, let us say from this node. Come on guys, I think we have seen this, right? So what is R up? Basically you are having, let's say M10 and M8, right? So approximately you can say it is GM8, R08, R010, or to be more exact, it is R08 plus R010 plus GM8, R08, R010. Correct? The sum of the two impedances plus the lower impedance, I mean the common source impedance multiplied by the gain of the cascading transistor, right? R010 multiplied the intrinsic gain of M8. This is your R up. Now what is your R down? So R down has what? Let us say this is M6, and then you have your M of 4, correct? Grounded, but this is also connected to if you look at this transistor, M4 is also connected to what? The drain of M2, correct? To let us say AC ground. All right. So this is M2. So which means what is going to be the impedance? Can you guess?
R06 plus
R06
R02
plus.
parallel R02 parallel, sorry, R04 parallel to R02 plus
Correct.
GM6 into R06 into R02 parallel to R04.
Perfect. Right? You got it? So now it is like saying that there is GM6 and M6 with R02 and R04. And this is how your R down looks like. So R out can be written as what? R up parallel to R down. All right. Now compare this with your telescopic cascode's output impedance. If let us say the same bias currents are flowing, how would you compare? Which one will be lower? Which one will be higher?
For telescope cascade, R down is more than
Correct. Very good, right? So R down of telescopic cascode is greater than R down of folded cascode, and therefore R out of telescopic cascode is definitely greater than R down of folded cascode. But nevertheless, it is not way lesser. It is definitely greater than what you would get in a 5 transistor OTA. Okay, that parallel thing is coming because of two reasons. Okay, first is, I mean, the lower impedance is coming because there is an R02 parallel to R04. There's a parallel combination. First and foremost, that is the thing. Secondly, ID4 is greater than ID6. Okay, which also means that R04 is going to be less than R06 here. Correct. Because M4 is going to carry not only I1 but also I tail by 2. So therefore ID of 4 is greater than what you have in M6. All right. So this is the issue. So which means because of both these factors, R down is a little lower than what you would get in telescopic cascodes. Okay. So let us look at gain. So gain, we all know it is nothing but GM times R out. And bandwidth also we are familiar. It is 1 by 2 pi R out times CL. Definitely this R out is greater than what you would get in a 5 transistor OTA. So now where else do you think you'll have non-dominant poles? Let's call this node as C, D, correct? So, and P. Now, where all do you think you'll have non-dominant poles?
A, B, C, D.
Okay. In this case, you tell me, will you have in A, B, C, D, or will you have only in A and B? Okay, so let me explain. So what happens is, see, we all know that effectively at point A, you have, let us say, a capacitance Ca. Now this capacitance Ca is going to come from, you know, the CDB, the CSB, you know, the CGS of M5, and also the M2's parasitic capacitances, right? So M2, M3, and M5, all the three transistors parasitic capacitances add up at node A, right? Similarly at node B. So let us say at point A, Ca is present, and point B, CB is present, right? So therefore, what is omega PA and what is omega PB? Actually, omega PA will be equal to omega PB because of symmetry. What will be the capacitance? I mean, what will be the pole? Can you tell?
1 by 2 pi R 3 parallel to R0 3 parallel to R0 1, then parallel to 1 by GM 5.
Correct. So 1 by GM will kind of, you know, dominate everything. So omega PA can be written as 1 by 2 pi. You have R0 1 parallel R0 3 parallel to R0 5. Sorry, 1 by GM 5 times Ca, which is approximately equal to GM 5 by, okay, 2 pi will not come because if it is this. We have GM pi by Ca is also equal to GM 6 by CB. All right. So these two are the non-dominant poles. Ca and Cb are a little larger than what you would get in your telescopic cascode, right? Because here you have three transistors whose parasitics are coming in, and in the telescopic cascode you only have two transistors parasitics. Now at points C and D, you have, let us say, CC and CD, but then there is a twist here. Okay, twist meaning in a fully differential system. I mean, this is true for even, you know, the telescopic cascode. If it in a fully differential system, right, you really do not have those poles coming into the picture. Why they will not come into the picture?
I think
Because
the
although
small
you
signal,
have capacitance, yeah, there is no small signal current flowing there, correct? Or rather, although there is some small signal, I mean, there is a small signal voltage here, the amount of small signal current that flows into that capacitor is very minimal. Okay, so in a fully differential case, for fully differential case, right, you do not know CC and no small signal current or very minimal small signal current through CC and CD, which means they do not appear in transfer function. All right.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, can you go to that circuit?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Sir, here, sir, won't it VGS of M7 and M8 change because of the small signal voltage?
No. Why will the VGS change or the VSG change?
Okay, sir. So it's VDG actually.
Yeah, VDG will change. VDG
Yes.
will change. But the output impedance at that node looking up is quite large and therefore very minimal. I mean, you
Okay,
can say that there's a very minimal small signal current flowing in there, and therefore we kind of neglect those two poles. Okay. But the story is different when you talk about a single-ended thing. All right. Okay. Okay. So with this, I will conclude today's class, and we will continue from next week onwards. Okay. So today I will put up the topics. So some of the topics will be on voltage and current reference generation. Those working on those topics may just have to jumpstart a little bit. It's actually a very easy concept. It's not very tough, but I will be taking it slightly towards the end of the course. So you have band gap voltage and generation, and you also have what is called as PTAT. PTAT meaning proportional to absolute temperature, current and voltage generation. So those will be the topics. Of course, rail-to-rail amplifiers I have put. Rail-to-rail amplifiers are basically an extension of folded cascode amplifiers. Okay. So those are the things. All right. Okay. So thanks everyone. Have a nice day. Yeah.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what was the dominant pole? I couldn't get the last part only.
So the dominant pole is basically the output pole, right? R out times CL, 1 by 2 pi R out times CL.
Okay, sir. So the A and B won't be dominant pole.
No, not at all.
Okay, sir.
So basically, there is only one more pole, which is that CACB basically are, I mean, 2 points, but it's just the same pole. There is only one pole. That is a non-dominant pole. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir.